Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Show, and here's what's coming up. Nil Pois for Rangers as Celtic are set for the title. Are the cracks beginning to show at Easter Road? And the pressures of the playoffs heat up as we're joined by Kilbride boss Mick Kennedy. We're almost there. The end is nigh. There's still so much to play for over Scottish football, though. Yes, whether you're revelling in your rivals' despair or wallowing in woe at your team's miserable end of the season, if you love our game, you know there's still so much to play for, to enjoy away from home and at home for your team, potentially. Let's not forget the Euros are just around the corner, and as her fingernails begin to chip away, she's still coming back for more on this podcast. It's TNT's senior sports producer, Laura Brannan. Hello, Laura.
Speaking of the Euros, like what I got sent down as a care package from back home today, because you very clearly you can't get this in London. It's only the England covers in London, so I had to get my mum to send me down a copy. Yeah, I can't find any Scotland covers at all, so my mum bought me a version from back home and posted it down to me, and I got it today. I'm so excited to open it.
That's so funny, man. That just reminds me of like when you're on holiday and you go down like the news agents in Spain and you're like, they've got a Scottish daily record. That's class.
Yep. I will be proudly taking that on the tube to work tomorrow morning so everyone can see it.
Nobody will want to see it in your office, Laura. Unfortunately. Well, there's one Scottish guy I know in your office. It's not me though. And guess who's back, Laura? Back again. Fenno's back. Tella Bear. Yes, the Pied Piper of Paisley himself and creative director at Melbourne City FC. Findlay Marks. Finn, you're looking very dapper and drawn out.
Yeah, quite tired. It was a bit of a late night last night, and I've still got my attire on from that. It was the end of season awards, the Player of the Year awards for Melbourne City. So late night, bit of fizz. But yeah, nothing is going to keep me away from talking about Scottish football now that we've kind of gone past the business end of the season here, which is good.
Wow, well done, well done. Laura, it's a busy time at TNT at the moment, isn't it? Champions League, Premier League, you're prepping it all, shoots, consumed by shoots. All you care about is Steve Clark's squad selection.
Yeah, I personally went to Athens myself to protect John McGinn last week. and now he's out of the Conference League, and that is one less game for us to worry about.
You're like spiking his like lunches or something like that.
Just making sure that nobody tackles him. I'm just waiting at the pitch side, carefully monitoring. But no, it's a very busy time at work just now. We've got the Champions League final, obviously European Conference League finals to prepare for. So there's a lot of prep going into that. You don't just, unfortunately, don't just turn up and shoot. You've got a lot of communications with UEFA. And yeah, there's obviously Premier League finish. Oh, that was it. So the Premier League finishes this weekend, and I absolutely do not want to talk about English football on this podcast, but I had to explain the concept today at work of what Helicopter Sunday is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, obviously on Sunday it'll go between City and Arsenal to win the league, and I made a helicopter joke, and they all looked at me blankly, and I had to give them a history lesson.
Yeah, they don't do helicopters in England, weirdly.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Put a train?
Well, this is the thing. There's probably about 4 Premier League trophies, so they probably have. Yeah, losers. It's not even the real thing. We deal with the real thing in Scotland. We jeopardize a potential, hazardous trophy falling from the skies to deliver it properly to our teams. Yeah. Oh well. Enough of me laughing, guys. I want you to make me laugh now. What has tickled you over the last couple of days? Even if it doesn't link to Scottish football, go for it.
Well, as you kind of alluded to in the headlines, obviously it was Eurovision weekend, and I don't know your feelings on it, Slaven, but Laura and I are massive Eurovision fans. So we had on one of our mini group chats with some friends back home, we have a dedicated Eurovision one, and there were several hundred messages that went around.
Several hundred. It was a live commentary.
But it's also, I mean, like the football. It's hard here in Australia because I think it's an 8 p.m. start in the UK, so that's 5 a.m. here. So we had to watch it on a delay, and it was a bit like the old days trying to avoid the result all day, staying off social media. Much harder than you think it would be. But anyway, but I really enjoyed it. I think it was the Latvian entry was garnering a bit of interest because I thought he was a dead ringer for Willow Flood. I was like, a cracking set of pipes on the old boy. He's a very thin, athletic-looking, baldy guy, and yeah, that
like yourself.
kind of made me laugh. Well, minus the word athletic, but I could not get out my mind that this was Willow Flood singing his heart out at Eurovision, dressed.
See, for me, I thought it looked like Liam Grimshaw. And
yeah. Insert any baldy footballer in there.
Which reminds me as well, I forgot to mention this last week or the week before. Did you see that Burnley put out a ticket advert on their social media? And it was just, one of these adverts for tickets going on sale. And it was the centre of the photo was a girl standing up singing her heart out. But just in front of her, was Liam Grimshaw sitting there in the crowd at a Burnley match. Massive Burnley fan. He's an absolute diehard. But he was just by complete coincidence, he was right in front of this girl that was promoting the tickets. And I think he also he shared it or something as well and made a joke about it. But I was like, what? Where did That's quite a good spot, to be fair.
That is no one else would have spotted that, Laura. I was going to lambaste you for bringing English football back into it, but well played. You turned it around.
One from me. Very, very niche for me. Because I put this into our group chat, and Andrew, I don't think you got this at all.
I still don't get it. Look, as everyone probably if anyone listens to this podcast, they know I'm an idiot. I don't get it.
So obviously we had the Northern Lights taking over our feed at the weekend, and somebody put up a photo of their dog, and it was a golden Labrador in front of the Northern Lights. Very cute. Very atmospheric, ponderous photo. This was on Saturday night, and obviously we had the Old Firm game on the Sunday morning, and somebody had quote tweeted it saying, "Pissing about when he's got a big game in the morning, for fuck's sake." Thing is, Andrew, do you remember many years ago now the Peter Lovenkrands dog tweet?
This is proper.
I don't know this.
This is peak.
No wonder I don't understand it.
So a few years ago, Peter Lovenkrands, he tweeted, the actual tweet said, 12 years old today, happy birthday, my beautiful boy. And the picture attached to the tweet, which you don't always see straight away when you read the words on a tweet, was a picture of his golden Labrador. Somebody had replied and not seen the photo, and then said, hopefully he grows up and scores goals against Celtic, just like his old man.
Oh, wow.
So the running joke became Peter Lovenkrands' golden Labrador. Then it was all about him playing for Rangers, and that was a running joke.
It must be one of the more famous memes around Scottish football. I've seen that picture of the Labrador in that kind of mid-2000s Rangers shirt more than I've seen a lot of other pictures. It still adorns, profile pictures of a lot of anonymous Rangers fans and things like that. Yeah, it's that's
what can I say?
Scottish football Twitter royalty.
My Hibs I've got no time for Nietzsche jokes.
Let the side down there, Andrew.
Any more?
Oh, did you see the video of the 3 mayors of the cities that we're going to in Germany this summer?
Yeah, I saw this.
This is great. So they're all being very nice, very hospitable, very friendly and welcoming. The Cologne mayor.
Hello everyone. As mayor of the city of Cologne, I'm delighted to welcome both English and Scottish football fans to Cologne. Our city is not only known for Cologne Cathedral. Visit our world-renowned museums for contemporary arts and much more.
Their art and culture of Cologne, and how she hopes we're going to be touring all the museums and taking in all the historical sites of the city. And I'm thinking, she is completely tuned in to exactly what the Tartan Army are going to be doing this summer. Sign me up for the museums, because I cannot wait.
Absolutely, with a can of Tennent's in my hand. Thank you very much. I'll be perusing the wonderful artworks that Cologne has to offer. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Very
Yeah.
good.
On the way to the bar and the toilet in the bar.
On the way
All the
to
lovely walls.
where's the bar in this museum? Where's the pub, man? Yeah, it's very true. That's going to be so good. I'm not going.
Yeah, this is devastating. I'm still not
Yeah,
over it. It's
I
too soon,
know.
Andrew.
I'm not going, and I'm gutted but excited because I'm doing something else, which is going to be really good fun. But maybe I'll tell you about that at another date. But I will be watching from a far, far away land. Right, bigger news than that in Scottish football, because Queen of the South have announced a new manager. Everyone, I don't know if I can't remember if we mentioned that Marvin Bartley had left by mutual consent, but they've looked no further than 20 miles down the road to Annan Athletics manager Peter Murphy, who has taken over and become, well, a full-time manager for the first time in his career. He was at Annan Athletic, who finished 2 points underneath Queen of the South. And that was enough for Queens to think that's the man we need. So 7 years he spent at Annan. He's a Carlisle United legend. He's got way more managerial experience than Marvin Bartley had, although he's kind of an unknown name. I am hoping, as a Queens fan, that experience proves worthwhile, and that he can actually bring this side back into the championship. But who knows? Who knows?
Can I ask a question, Andrew? Like, because I think you don't just I know you've been a fan of Marvin Bartley, both as a manager and as a person, and you've worked with him as well. But is there maybe something in the fact that he might not have been cut out for that level? And I just mean, like, sometimes in the lower leagues, you just it's a different type of game, it's a different type of football. And maybe that's why it didn't quite work for Queens this season. So bringing somebody in like Peter Murphy, who knows that end of the game, that level of the game really well, is that a more suitable appointment for Queens, and obviously to try and get them out of League One?
Who knows, man? Who knows if it will be the right appointment or not? The fact is that Queens are going through like so much transition at the moment. So they've announced a new chairman, Jim McLinden, who actually is an Carlisle fan because his son was playing in like the under-18s. I think he's from Hamilton, bit of a businessman all over the world a little bit. So he's got acumen to be an administrator. But I do wonder how Queens are going to be run as a football club right now. With Marvin riddled with injuries all throughout the season, it's hard. Just sometimes it just doesn't work at a club. So I don't know why it didn't work. It just didn't. And it's a shame because it was rare for Queens to give a 2-year contract to someone. It's rare for anyone. But the fact is, and I think it was put out on SPFL Media Watch Twitter guy, really good, that Queens have what was it? Queens, yeah, Queen of the South have finished the lowest position for any professional football club in Scottish football ever. So no matter what happens next season, it has to be a dramatic turnaround in results. And results are the only thing that matters to Queens next season. You can't sustain being a professional club and finishing where you are in this pyramid system. It has to change. So it's a shame for Marvin. Nice guy.
I see that also following on from managerial exits. I mean, this is going to be quite common at this point, now that teams are just finishing up their seasons. Stirling Albion have obviously parted ways with Darren Young, now that they've been relegated to League Two. But I'm sure we'll touch on that later when we talk about the playoffs.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Dropping like flies. But Scotland players, Laura, they're not dropping like flies, right?
For now.
Not anymore. Not for now. Robertson's all right. McTominay looks like he's coming back.
Yeah,
Oh no, he did come back.
Yeah, there's not much bad news, to be fair, this week. Touch wood, touch everything that's lucky. What was that?
A hit wood.
Okay, fine. Like you just fell off your chair. Yes, Andy Robertson got rested for the game against Aston Villa, so that's nice. Thank you. That was great. Like to hear that. Scott McTominay did come back against whoever the hell Man United played at Old Trafford in the flood at the weekend.
Just Arsenal.
Oh yeah,
just the team leading the Premier League. Senior producer at TNT.
Like yeah, there was only 1 minute mattered on that pitch that day. He was fine. Obviously a wee bit worried that he was rushed back again for a third time, but it seems like he came through it unscathed. Kieran Tierney's fit as well. He was expected to be back in the team on Monday night playing against Barcelona, but he was on the bench, so that's another good sign as well. Scott McKenna's back in the squad at Copenhagen as well, so they've got 3 games left of their season, and they're currently sitting top of the league, so he's part of a title challenge.
He's on loan there, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Craig Gordon's back playing. I know he's been getting cup matches this season, but interesting to see he got his second league game of the season for Hearts at the weekend. So that's interesting. I wonder if they're going to try and give him a wee run out towards the end of the season to try and get both their keepers into the squads. Now that they've secured Europe, there's nothing really for them to play for. Give them some game
secured third. So yeah, there's so much freedom for Hearts at the moment. I mean, yeah.
And the other one to mention is Shea Adams. He missed the playoff at the weekend, but he's got a tight calf injury. But I don't think it's anything to worry about. He's expected to be back for the game this coming weekend.
The dogs bark and the caravan passes. The caravan keeps moving. The caravan keeps going.
Right, well, Saturday is a huge day for both Stranraer and East Kilbride. The Kilby are looking to get to Scottish football's League Two for the first time in their history, but Stranraer themselves are also desperate not to be another name dropping out of Scotland's top 4 tiers. Last week it ended 2-2 between the sides, and I'm delighted to say we're actually joined by the East Kilbride manager, Mick Kennedy. Mick, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely brilliant to have you on. Really interesting, really, considering you've got a massive game this weekend. It was obviously a well-fought one on Saturday. I watched it back, actually. I thought you had by far the better chances in the match. But I suppose after it, you would have been a little bit disappointed not going into this weekend with a bit more of a goal tally.
Yeah, I think you look back at the game. Obviously, you're watching it live, then you even look back at the statistics, and we watch it back. I mean, we should be getting our way out of Stranraer with quite a superior lead, to be honest with you. And you look at the chances we created, but I think Stranraer done well to stay in the game. Their goalkeeper was excellent, and they'll be happy to get into 2-2 and get down there. The tie sort of been even, so to play for this Saturday.
How do you like kind of speak to your players at full time? What kind of things do you say to kind of get them mentally prepared for the week of preparation after a game like that?
The preparation will probably be very similar to last week in terms of, because the philosophy and sort of game plan won't change. So I think we stressed them the importance of imposing ourselves in the game on Saturday, and we've done that, and that's why we obviously dominated large parts of it and created numerous opportunities. So it'll be the same sort of plan and strategy going down to Stranraer on Saturday. Obviously the pitch will change, probably part of the game in terms of obviously the surface. We play in a brand new 4G, and obviously the Stranraer playing grass, which I'd imagine will not be an unbelievable condition this time of year. So, but I won't change it in terms of we play. So we'll just prepare normally. As I say, we won't change. We'll be always very open and expansive, and we'll go and try and win the game in 90 minutes. So we'll just prepare the exact same as we did last week.
You're saying that, like, you had so many chances, you could have been going into this with a win, going into the second leg. That must be a confidence booster, though, to the boys, to be able to play against a team like Stranraer and go, actually, no, we're at least a match for them.
Yeah, listen, I think there's two ways to look at it. I think you could be disappointed on the back of missing opportunities and not taking that dominance into a more positive sort of situation. But then when you reflect back on it, the message has been to the players that we need to obviously look at how well we actually played, take confidence and belief from that. And if we get to the same levels on Saturday, then I'm pretty confident we'll go into League Two.
How do you see the two leagues, the Lowland League and League Two? Do you think there's much of a difference in quality between, say, the bottom of League Two or even the whole leagues together?
No, I don't think there's much. I would say the top probably 3 or 4 in the Lowland League would comfortably survive in League Two. And I think you've probably seen that over the last few years. Every club that's went up has progressed through it, or has at least stabilised themselves in League Two. So I don't think there's really any difference. And I don't think there's much difference from the top of League Two down to the bottom of League Two either, to be fair. But obviously, because we were in a quite a commanding position in the league ourselves, we started to spend a lot of time watching League Two games this year. And every game we watched, whether it was the top player and the bottom, they were all very tight. Not a lot of difference in quality, maybe 1 or 2 individuals across each team, but nothing significant. So there's not much of a difference, to be honest with you.
You're just talking there about the quality level between kind of where East Kilbride are at and the league that you might be going into. Obviously, goes without saying, it would mean so much for the club to be promoted, and the Keane family, the owners of the club, have put so much into the club over the last 10 years. Do you feel that League Two is the level that East Kilbride should be at now? Because it kind of feels like so much has been invested into the team, and we've seen them go on cup runs and all this stuff. You kind of feel, is there maybe a thing that they've kind of outgrown the Lowland League, and they are a very ambitious club that they kind of need to be getting to League Two now to enter that next phase of progression for the club?
Listen, I think everybody's aspiration within the club, certainly the owners and the board, has been to get into League Two, but ultimately you need to earn that on the pitch. And I mean, East Kilbride have not won the league in the last 5 years. So that gives you obviously the platform and the opportunity to go into to at least obviously play against the bottom of League Two. So they've not done that consistently enough recently. So on that basis of note, they don't deserve to be there. Obviously this year we've managed to win the league and put ourselves in a strong position to go up. But in terms of investment, infrastructure, in terms of the plan off the pitch, in terms of what Paul and James intend to do when the club moves out of League Two, then definitely I would say that the club could go in and be comfortable, well-established part-time club at that level. But I think you need to earn the right to be there, and unfortunately over the last 10 years the club have obviously fell short on a number of occasions.
So you joined the club, you've basically been there for just over a year now, but you would have joined it where there's kind of a lot of pressure to achieve very quickly for East Kilbride. Do you enjoy that pressure? Is that one of the reasons you joined, and have you kind of tried to instill that in the players to join the club and to enjoy the pressure of being at the club?
Listen, I think when Paul asked to speak to us, me and Simon, we sat down and obviously discussed what the club's sort of plan was moving forward. I think if Paul didn't obviously say that he wanted to win the league, then we wouldn't have taken the job, to be honest with you, because that's the only reason we were willing to take it, that there was at least that ambition within the club to try and make sure that we could give ourselves the opportunity to go into League Two. So that pressure me and Simon put on ourselves from day one, and obviously that then comes from the owner and the board. So, but I think everybody was on the same page that this year the club had to at least win the league, and we've done that. And then it's just about then trying to seize the opportunity we've created for ourselves.
Do you stay in East Kilbride, Mick? Do you get a sense of what the kind of mood is like around the place? I mean, I'm from East Kilbride, but I'm not living there just now. And my mum and dad went to the game at the weekend, and I get that sense of excitement from them because they've been wanting it for so long. But do you get that kind of around the place?
I don't live there. I live in the West End, but I've got a business. I've got one of my Black Roosters in East Kilbride, so I spend a bit of time there at least with the football. Obviously, you'll know yourself coming to there. It's a massive town. The population's around about 85,000 people. So there's certainly a fan base there in terms of obviously growing the club off the pitch. But that only happens with being successful. What I would say is the fan base is significantly grown this year. I mean, the numbers are significantly higher than they were when we first went in the door, but that's obviously on the back of being successful. But no, you can see now that the momentum's starting to build, and I think if we can manage to at least get the club into League Two and then have a good summer in terms of recruitment and planning, then obviously I think there's a real opportunity to continue to grow the fan base. As I say, the owner's plan is to build a new £4.5 million stadium as soon as we reach League Two, and the K Park will become the club's training base. So as I say, there's massive plans there in terms of infrastructure investment. So it's just up to myself and Simon and the team to try and deliver it on the pitch.
It's obviously a massive. We've said it already. It's a massive game. The tie's at 2-2, so the chance of potential penalties in this game as well, which is exciting for the punter and people who aren't attached to the club and whatnot. But you've not had a great record recently being on penalties, and that's not something that anyone wants to face. But
cheers,
I know
Andrew.
sorry, mate. I know, but I'll twist it and put it in a positive, because that kind of the heartache in the Lowland League Cup against was Tranent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, lost on penalties that day. But you've obviously picked your players up and kept them focused. Do you think that sort of penalty pain can actually give you a boost if you were to go to penalties again?
It's such a difficult thing to prepare for. The reality is it's just about people's confidence and belief on the day. You can't replicate that sort of nerves and tension, certainly, and apparently it's probably worth potentially getting into League Two. So, but yeah, you've just got to have confidence, belief in the players. As I said, that day against Tranent, we had 2 penalties to win it and missed both of them. So you just never know. And you'd asked me for the 2 players who took the penalties would have scored, I would have banked 100% they would have done. So you just never know on the day, but you've just got to have belief in the boys, and I think we've got enough confidence within the group that if we go to penalties, we'd be confident we could go and win it. But I generally do believe if we can get to the levels we got to at the weekend, and I see no reason why we shouldn't, then I think we'll give ourselves a massive opportunity to win it within 90 minutes.
And you're in another cup final as well. You get so many distractions going on.
Yeah.
Like that must not be easy either. The 26th later on this month, Kirkintilloch, Rob Roy in the South Challenge Cup. So priority is this weekend though, obviously. But you've got it's great to have these big occasions.
Yeah, I think if we were going to League Two, Andrew, we'll send under 20s to that game. I think you'll struggle to find us, to be honest with you. I think half the group will be scattered somewhere across the continent, somewhere. So I don't know if they'll be able to hear. I don't even know if me and Si will be here, to be honest with you. So
wow.
so we just need to see if we can pull something together for the 26th. But it's not a big priority at the moment.
I'll play.
Do you?
I'll hold you to that. You might have to.
do you kind of, obviously it's a very important match, but do you kind of relish these occasions? Obviously, you masterminded the incredible cup win over Aberdeen when you were at Darvel before you came to East Kilbride. Do you kind of relish the being the underdog in the situation and this kind of knockout level of football?
Listen, I think in this country, unless you're Celtic and Rangers, you're probably guaranteed to be competing for trophies every other year. Everybody else who's involved in full-time or part-time football, opportunities to be successful are very rare. So I think when they come along, then you need to ensure that you obviously enjoy the occasion. It's something that drives us. I mean, as I said, me and Simon, we're desperate to come in here and try and make the club successful. I've been pretty fortunate anywhere I've been as a manager. I've won trophies and win leagues and stuff like that. So I'm used to having a degree of success. So, but this is I think it's such a significant thing, simply because what it would mean to the club and the town. I think people would ask me the other day would it obviously be a bigger occasion than beating Aberdeen, and I think just for what it would mean to the people of East Kilbride and the owners, I think it certainly would be on a personal level. So, but yeah, it's something I'm looking forward to.
I mentioned distractions, Mick. Like, how do you manage a football club and also run like multi-chain restaurants? How do you keep your head like switched on to all the football and then trying to, because that's numbers aren't my game, but you've got to keep a good eye on all of that stuff as well, right? How do you juggle it all?
I'm pretty fortunate that my business partner Kevin's he's real hands-on, to be fair. So he's really passionate and hands-on. So he sort of manages and runs the business on a daily basis. I'm a wee bit more light touch now than what I used to be. So, and obviously we've got a fantastic sort of executive and management team as well now. So as I say, I just sort of dip myself in and out of it. And then I also own other businesses as well. So you're just trying to spread yourself a bit thinly, to be honest, at times. But what I would say is, like, I was speaking to Si about this last night. I generally don't know how guys who are part-time level managing part-time football in the leagues do a 9-to-5 job Monday to Friday and then manage to manage football clubs, because it's such a difficult. It must be such a difficult balance to get. Because I struggle with it and I've got a lot of freedom. So, but it does take the football does take over your life. It takes priority over everything at times. Yeah. But I suppose that's why I do it.
And that's the funny thing with me as well, because there's loads of footballers lower league that want to stay part-time. It just sits with their lifestyles. And some of them are like top level footballers. They could play championship and maybe even a little bit higher, but they make the money and they live their lives quite happily. How about yourself? Do you think you can see yourself as a full-time manager higher up the levels?
I just think that the businesses that would be probably unrealistic, to be honest with you. I think that'd be too difficult, and I think it would probably take away from my livelihood, which, no disrespect, I would probably earn more doing that than I would being a full-time manager.
Yeah.
So that would probably be a step too far. Happy being part-time, to be honest with you. But I think that's as far as I would go.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate the honesty. That's really cool. And all I would say is, just to finish on, is if you are ever looking to invest further or sponsor, I don't know, a Scottish football podcast or anything like that, you've got our email now. So
Seize the moment, mate. Seize the moment, definitely.
The Black Rooster Scottish football podcast. What do you say?
We had a bad night last night. You're having a f***ing horrendous one now.
Listen, do you know what happened 10 years ago in the Scottish Cup? St Johnstone won the Scottish Cup in 2014, the first time they'd ever reached the final against Dundee United at Celtic Park. It's absolutely mad. And three previous managers were involved in this game. So you had Tommy Wright managing the squad. You had Stephen McLean, who scored in this game to make it 2-0. And obviously Callum Davison was assistant manager at the time. So they're actually throwing an anniversary dinner in November. Like 7 months after the anniversary. But regardless, it's award season, as Finn is clearly showing, if you are watching on YouTube. But yeah, there's going to be an anniversary dinner in November celebrating this. What a moment.
I was at this game.
Were you?
Yeah, I was there as a fan as well.
Corporate.
I wasn't working it. No, I wasn't.
Wait a minute. Scotland weren't playing, Laura. I thought you weren't. Hold on.
I was
breaking
actually
news.
I was in a Dundee United end that day, and it was the first time I'd ever taken part in a tifo display as well. So
wow.
it was at Celtic Park because it was before the Commonwealth Games as well.
That's
so
right.
This wasn't played at Hampden. Very strange atmosphere though, too, because obviously I'd worked at Celtic for so long. To then be a fan in the stands and then be a completely different side of the stadium that I would normally sit at as well, to then watch a cup final, which was so commonly like connected with Hampden. Similar to almost when Scotland played Ireland at Hampden, I felt as though the atmosphere was just, everyone was a bit confused. Nobody really knew where their area was, and all very kind of different environment and stuff. But yeah, St Johnstone were by far the better team that day. I was in with the Dundee United fans, and they didn't have much to sing about. It was they
hit the woodwork twice, didn't they? They hit the woodwork.
Never...
Yeah, I think it was the one that strikes me was the Shiftshi Nadir from a free kick. I remember him like hitting the crossbar and even hit the goalkeeper and almost went in. Absolutely mad game. But yeah, that was a good day for St Johnstone. One day in May.
It's a shame though when you look at it now compared to where they are. And I guess like this is what we talk about when we talk about the playoffs and stuff. But now they're in around this position to be getting relegated this season. It just shows you how much of a difference. I know we always talked about how they punched above their weight around that time, around the kind of 2015 to 2018 kind of era, even beyond that, even actually when they were winning the cups. But now it just feels a bit like they're kind of slipping back into where they're
clinging on for dear life, aren't they? Clinging on for dear life. Should we just round up what's happening down at the relegation kind of league at the moment, Laura? Because St Johnstone obviously lost to Livingston, who are relegated. Like, sorry, Livingston, this performance.
Absolute coupon busters, by the way. Livy being relegated, they're just thinking about next season now, reshaping their squad, bringing in some new boys on pre-contracts and everything. Nah, St John's are fighting for their lives. That's an easy one. Of course not. You put St John's in your coupon, they're not going to do you any favours. They're slipping right down here, and there's a massive game during the week between Ross County and St Johnstone, which will essentially determine who gets the playoff spot. There's 2 points in it just now, but if Ross County win that one, it's curtains for St Johnstone, I think.
So Ross County 2 points ahead, because St Johnstone are in the playoff spot, so they're 2 points ahead. They win that. It's if Ross County win, that's it. It's done and dusted. St Johnstone will be in the playoff. It's not a playoff; it's a relegation playoff.
So they'll play the winners of Wraith Rovers and Partick Thistle, which how would you call that? Because I don't normally it's these playoffs are so heavily weighted in the favour of the Premiership team, but I don't think you can call that one.
I don't think you can either. And Partick Thistle have been here before as well, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they've got a record that they want to clean up too. And that was under Chris Doolan as well, wasn't it?
They'll be hurting
So
from last year. So obviously last year they lost it in like the dying seconds. Well, I say dying
mm,
seconds, they went on to the penalty shootout as well, but they lost it in such a heartbreaking fashion against Ross County last year. They'll be going all out to try and rectify that this year, even
and
more
that
so
would
than
be
normal.
that would be heartbreaking for Wraith, who have had an unbelievable season
Yeah.
themselves. Like it's so the pain of the playoffs. It's so brutal. The drama is great, but it can be so brutal for so many sides. So yeah, we'll see what happens. That St Johnstone Ross County game's massive. Massive. Motherwell Ross County. Where was this result as well? 5-1 against Ross County. So not Ross County aren't going into that game with all singing, all dancing, but class for Motherwell.
Yeah, I mean,
There's actually lol on the script here. I guess that's you, Laura. Lol.
it's not the first time Motherwell put 5 past Ross County this season. So
We were obviously talking a couple of weeks ago, I think, when the split happens and how good the split is because of these types of matches where everything means something to these teams that are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table. It's always really funny because you get one team that's kind of like actually going on to a bit of form and almost escape the relegation group, but don't quite manage to do it. And then they go in and basically play like Brazil 1970 for the final 5 games of the season. And that seems to be Motherwell. They're having a lovely old time. And Aberdeen as well, because I don't know what's in the water up in the northeast at the moment, but they've looked completely transformed since since the news that Tillon's coming in and Warnock left. I mean, they were fantastic against Hibs, chucking young boys on for debuts, scoring goals like no other. But
the goals were amazing, yeah.
Yeah, but then conversely as well, like Hibs, man, what their season's
They had
just
some howlers
petering out. Oh my word!
You were a big fan of Nick Montgomery because obviously his time in Australia, you'd kind of had a little eye on him before he even moved to Hibs.
Yeah, and he did an incredible job at Central Coast Mariners, who I think actually are still feeling the benefits of how well his management helped set the club up, because they've just won the Premier's Plate here in Australia. The Australian League's a bit different. They kind of do the league season, and then a bit like NFL, like the Super Bowl, the top 6 teams go into a finals series, they call it, which is very typical of Australian sport. So they're on for, they've won the league, the Premier's Plate. They're on their way potentially to the grand final to win the overall championship. And they also won the kind of secondary Asian football tournament. So
Hibs fans
Harry
will be
Kewell...
delighted about this, by the way.
No, but I'm coming on to a point about Hibs in just a second. Harry Kewell actually won the Asian Champions League, which is the premier competition, with Yokohama F. Marinos, former Ange prodigy, obviously, and was at Celtic last season as a coach. Now he's a manager in his own right. But the secondary competition, the Mariners made the final and won. Australian teams don't tend to make the finals of the Asian competition, so it's quite a big result. It's interesting though, because obviously I think there's no question Montgomery's kind of under pressure. I don't think a lot of Hibs fans is maybe 50-50 whether or not they'd stick with him or go on. But using that example of the managers and how long Montgomery was in that job and how much he was part of the fabric of that club and helped bringing through youngsters and all the rest of it, I kind of just feel like Hibs, interestingly, maybe slightly in the same way as Rangers, maybe we'll touch on this when we talk about the top half of the Premiership group, but they've been in this cycle of like putting in a new manager, not really sticking with him when things go belly up, replacing him most often halfway through a season or 3/4 of a way through a season, and then the whole cycle begins again. But there's been 3 or 4 years of that, and I just wonder, even despite this kind of petering out of the season for Hibs, surely there comes a point where you have to look beyond just the short-termism of like this is where we think Hibs should be, and just be like, this is where you are, and you need to start building things on a solid base for the future and give somebody a good couple of seasons, even if that means writing off part of the league campaign next season or whatever, to properly invest in trying to get the club back to where they want to be. So
I think
I
you're
would stick
totally,
with Montgomery, but
I think you're
don't know.
totally right. Like, too often, clubs and fans of clubs expect any manager, if they don't get it right with whatever players are there already, then they're not good enough. When Hibs are just literally failing on the back of subsequent managers who have had transfer windows and haven't been able to like turn it around in time. At the end of the day, even though Montgomery's brought some players in already, it's still not his team. And you know, at the end of the day, they're not in a relegation fight. Let's face it. They've got a summer, and I would argue that even if they were in the bottom half of the table by November, they should still wait till after January and let this team gel and mold and see what happens. However, we're not Hibs fans, and Hibs fan, I don't think 50, I don't think it is 50-50. I think a lot of the
Yeah.
fans are sick of the football that they're seeing under Hibs, and not just the results, like even the sparse victories that they've had. I don't think they've exactly enjoyed the football either. However, it all takes time.
The crowd, the number of the crowd left in Easter Road at the weekend said it all. There was more Aberdeen fans in the stadium than there was Hibs fans, with about 20 minutes still left of this game. And that just speaks volumes. I mean, Hibs are doing
And
a
what
lap
do
at the end. There's nobody there to
and what
clap
do
or boo them.
and what do big executives at football clubs get terrified about? Season ticket sales. You know what? Like, in a lot of, you know, if nobody's picking up season ticket sales, they look for an option, and sometimes that option is a change of manager just to create a bit of excitement. But it would have to be, nobody knew who Nick Montgomery was before this, so it'd have to be someone of note, and you don't want to go back to Neil Warnock. So yeah,
Just on that game, just a mention for 16-year-old Fletcher Boyd. He came on, scored the fourth goal, and he's only 16. I think he's 16 in 2 months or 3 months. It makes
wow.
him like the youngest Aberdeen goal scorer. So great record. He actually just won the under-18s league during the week with Aberdeen as well. So it's been a big few days for him.
That brings me to the top of the table, Laura, because I can talk about Hearts and their young player, James Wilson, who made his debut for Hearts in a 3-0 win against Dundee. Stephen Naismith really, really heavily rates this young kid, young striker, says he's going to be a big player for the club moving forward, and he's going to be, you know, a first team player next season. That's how big he rates this guy. So keep a wee eye out for James Wilson as well. Obviously Dundee. Sorry.
Is it a little bit of a boring name for a 17-year-old in Scotland now? I just feel like, you know, most.
Come on.
Well, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just, it's bread and butter. It's meat and two veg kind of name. But it's just like, you know, when you look around, like, oh, here's a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old coming on for Liverpool or whatever in a Carabao Cup match, and his name's like Jordan
John Smith.
Microwave or something like that. You know, it's just like
Wow.
James Wilson.
You've had too much fizz, Finn. You're literally talking out your ass.
He could stand to have a good nickname. Hopefully he's got a good nickname.
Jamesy. Anyway, yeah, so Dundee are actually, you know, it's Dundee and St Mirren at the moment at the top that they're kind of fighting out for 5th place, right? So St Mirren lost 1-0 to Kilmarnock at St Mirren Park as well. So Derek McInnes, they've secured 4th place already. So it's down to the battle of 5th, that kind of illustrious European spot. And it's hard to predict who's going to get there. Who do you think is going to get there, Laura?
St Mirren.
Good.
Yeah, I think the gaps, they've opened up a gap now. 2 games left to go. And I'm hopeful. Although, to be fair, the last game's against Celtic, which isn't great for them, but I think they'll have it wrapped up
At Celtic
then.
Park, yeah. Interesting. Well, speaking of Celtic, they were 2-1 winners over Rangers on Saturday, which pretty much puts the league title in their hands conclusively. 6 points clear with 2 games to play. Although I think if Rangers fail to beat Dundee on Tuesday night, then that Celtic won the title already. And you've had Clement come out and already say that he's got 11 players out injured right now, kind of setting his stall out to kind of almost, I don't know, submit failure already. But this was a massive game, a huge result for Celtic, and even Brendan Rodgers has came out and kind of slammed the press about treating him like a novice. What were your takes after this? Finn, you tipped this. You kind of predicted this to happen, to be fair.
Yeah, and to be honest, you could probably take my summary of any of the Old Firm games this season and just replay it here, because it was pretty much exactly what we've seen all season. I don't really know any Rangers fans that were, I think they were hopeful rather than being optimistic or genuinely thinking they could do it. But if I'm being honest, as soon as I saw the starting lineup, my heart sank, because I think I even messaged you guys saying that as well, because Rangers have had their injury worries, but you start your better players half fit. I think most Rangers fans knew exactly what they were going to get. And it's the way it panned out. They were completely overrun in midfield. They had no real press. They were playing a lot of hoofball, and there was no real structure. They had one big chance, didn't take it, and then a couple of minutes later they're 2-0 down, and a bit beyond that, a man down as well. It's all just it's just a bit of a shame, because it's all petered out, a bit of a whimper. I think what really happens now, I think the cup final takes on a huge amount of significance now for Rangers, because that's 3 Old Firm games that Clement's been in charge for now, and it's been the same result basically every time. The longer, Old Firm managers that don't win Old Firm games don't tend to last too long in the job. And if they don't win the Scottish Cup, the next Old Firm game takes on a huge amount of significance next season then again, and just the longer it goes on. I think it's about almost 2 years since Rangers have beaten Celtic in a meaningful match. There was the Beale game at the end of last season, and it's almost 3 years in the league. So something has to change, but it's just been more of the same, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, for me, it's like, congratulations to Celtic. It's a done deal. There's no way they're going to collapse from this at this stage. But for me, it's just a disappointment that the 3H game in April, the start of April, the equaliser for Rangers then felt significant. It felt like it was a message that they were sending. They were really kind of clawing their way back into this again. But the 2 games after that, they lost to Ross County and they drew with Dundee. And at that stage of the season, when you're mounting a comeback, you cannot afford to drop points to teams of that level. And if you do, I'm sorry, but you're just simply not good enough to lift the league title. And Celtic have deserved it over the course of not just the season, but the run-in, and the most important part of the business end of the season. Celtic have kept their bottle and Rangers haven't.
And arguably, you can say that response from Rangers, like equalising and then celebrating, was almost fuel for Celtic as well, to be honest. If you think you're celebrating an equaliser when
Oh,
it's
no,
not
that's
a winner,
harsh. No, that's harsh.
it's not a winner. No. How is that? How is that in any way harsh? Rangers didn't win the game, and it wasn't that.
No, but it was
because there was a long way till the end of the season.
Equalisers can be just as big as winners.
What was the points difference at that time? What, 6 points?
Yeah, but they brought it back down to 0 points. So it was big at that point. They just didn't.
Yeah, but Rangers were leading. Rangers were ahead in the table at that point, right?
Yeah, I don't.
But they weren't ahead in that game. Yeah, no, I agree with Laura. I think when you look at it in the context of the game, and Laura's absolutely right.
My point is, though, that the fuel that just fueled Celtic even further.
If not to be too flippant about it, but I don't think it was really relevant from a Celtic point of view either way, because the interesting thing is, like, if you look at the other results, if Rangers had navigated what were surprise defeats, the home defeat to Motherwell and Ross County and the draw at Dundee, Rangers could still have gone to Parkhead and lost and still been 2 points clear. So I'd said earlier on this season that I didn't feel the season would rest entirely on the Old Firm games. And I also don't think it's a particularly good Celtic side. I don't think that's unfair to say. I think they were by far the better team at the weekend. But as I've mentioned numerous times over the last couple of months, to me, the bigger factors have been about experience and mentality. 2 things that Rangers don't have in a positive way, and two things Celtic have in spades in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I think
then
that,
you could also
I think,
argue
is
then
the
it's
biggest
an
thing you
even
have to
worse Rangers
redress.
team.
No, but it is. But then, would you honestly say, is this Rangers team this season better or worse than last season? I would suggest it's worse, but they've run Celtic closer. So what does that tell you about the amount Celtic have dropped off from last season? And obviously, it's hard to replicate when they were treble winners last season. But I don't think either team is particularly good, and it's kind of who's stumbled over the finish line in the end rather than blowing the opposition away. But because of their experience, because of their superior mentality, it's been Celtic. And I think unless something drastic changes, even ahead in the next couple of weeks ahead of the cup final, I think we'll see exactly the same thing happen in that match too.
All I'll end on is just what I saw, and I'll go back to the 3-3 game. I thought Celtic were excellent for a long part of that game, and for the most part of the victory on the weekend, Celtic were excellent as well in that game. And the final 20 minutes in both matches were pretty bad from Celtic, to be fair. But that's my final point. So I'll finish off talking about the rest of the playoffs. We mentioned that it'll be Partick Thistle playing Wraith Rovers in the semi-final of the kind of playoff promotion race type thing. And they'll play probably St Johnstone or Ross County at the moment, but we don't know yet. Hamilton will play Inverness in the League One promotion. Or staying where you are race. Because Aki's beat Alloa 5-4 on aggregate, and Inverness Caledonian Thistle beat Montrose 1-0 on aggregate. They play on Wednesday, actually, Hamilton Inverness.
See, just that game, like that is a massive game because I think Hamilton will have designs on really wanting to get back into the Championship. It could be disastrous for Cali Thistle to drop down, almost in the same kind of way you were talking about Queens at the top of the programme. For a team of that level and that stature, really, like the Cali Thistle have established themselves at least as a top half, I would say, normally Championship club. They've been pushing for promotion the last number of years and have obviously been in the Premiership as well over recent seasons. For them to be in a match where they could potentially drop down to League, wow, it's disastrous potentially. So, so much riding on that for both clubs. I think it'll be quite a tight final as well.
Yeah, financial issues, but although Derek Ferguson has also said as well he should be staying regardless. We'll wait and see about that. Massive even game for Spartans, who are in their maiden season in the top four flights, but they're going to play Dumbarton in their final on Tuesday night. They beat Peterhead in an incredible kind of 7-2 demolishing on aggregate. They won 5-1 at the weekend. And Dumbarton relegated Stirling and Albion back down to League Two after their first season. Been League One for a while. And as we've just heard from Mick Kennedy, it's going to be a good fun game between East Kilbride and Stranraer. Right, so that's us over for another week. When will it end? Soon. But then there's the Euros, so it'll be good. It'll never end.
And then the whole cycle begins again next season, Andrew.
My thanks to both of your lovely faces. Findlay, go and get some coffee in you, mate. You'll be fine. Or maybe have a wee cura. That'll work for you. That'll work in your favour.
Well, I've got to drive to work, so it'll need to be coffee.
Oh, Jesus. Thanks to Mick Kennedy from East Kilbride as well. Absolute legend. Really appreciate it and can't wait for Black Rooster to sponsor us next season. Goodbye.